Thank you for joining us for another episode of this video series, which is called Learning and Development, Preparing Enterprises for Tomorrow. Right? I'm very glad to announce that today we have with us Dr. Reema Ghosh Chaudhary, CHRO, Datamatics Global Services Limited. Thank you, Reema, for joining us today. It's a pleasure hosting you today. As always, we also have with us yet again Arushi Agarwal, Head Coursera for Business India. Reema, I straight away come to you, right? This interview holds a special place because so far we have been interacting with other industries, right? We have been talking to manufacturing, we have been talking to banking, we have been talking to conglomerates, right? And they're all talking about their business transformation journeys, right? But you are at the helm of a organization which is enabling all these business transformations, right, for all of them. And what is most intriguing for me is that you have to be way ahead of the curve, right? And that's through your employees, right? So all the challenges that other industries might have reciprocated or, referred to is very minuscule to my, very limited knowledge from your standpoint, because you are the one who is enabling all of these industries. So the diversity that you are dealing with, the depth that you are dealing with, the speed of innovation that you are dealing with, I think no one else can fathom, right? Given this, Reema, what are the things that you see and observe in your industry when it comes to learning and development and upskilling? Over to you.
First of all, I think you set the context beautifully, because this is exactly the context that we set for corporates, for clients, that we help you transform digitally. We are a partner in your success. We ensure your success. Now, when you have to ensure someone else's success, you also have to ensure that you are updated all the time. And irrespective of what happens, you stay relevant throughout. So, Sumedha, if I look at how the landscape has changed over a period of time, let's look at the pace of change. So there was Industry 1.2, long back, so steam engines and all of that. Then 2.0, we moved to electrical and all those equipments which kind of brought in a change. Industry 3.0, where the advent of IT happened, and technology information technology changed everything. And then, of course, Industry 4.0 trends, which is all your machine learning, cognitive sciences, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, all these things came in. But just imagine what happened on November 30th, 2022, when OpenAI's ChatGPT was brought in front of public. By December 5th, about 1 million users had checked it out. So the other platforms, which is your Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, they took so long to hit that number, and we were thinking that those advent was also fast enough, but actually ChatGPT, the generative AI speed was huge. Now, if this is the pace at which industry is changing and technology is changing, we cannot be far behind. So first of all, it's very important to stay abreast of what's going on, what's happening at every level. Right from the junior most employees in the organization who constantly need to know the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization through CEO town halls, and they are able to understand where the organization is going.
Right.
To me, that is as important an element as is the skill upgradation for the top leadership as well. It's important at both levels. So we put a lot of importance to the leadership potential assessment exercise that goes on at senior levels, getting the entire employee engagement piece to flow seamlessly with the learning and development piece as well. So that is so that what's in it for me approach is probably something that guides us constantly. That when we talk about skilling imperatives, we take people along. So one is the change in landscape. Secondly, the change that has come into the L&D function. So there was a time when probably the function would have people who are trainers, who are training coordinators, facilitators, of course, trainers, as I said, and then probably somebody who deals with the training MIS part of it. Today, I guess almost every team would have at least one person who is kind of integrally linked to the learning management system of the company and is constantly churning out maybe, micro learning modules, videos, etc., to have a much wider reach. So to your question, I would say that it's important to stay abreast of what's going on and constantly be in that improvisation and innovation path as to what we can do new.
Wonderful, Rima. That's very insightful when you say that you have kind of placed one person who is constantly the link between the rest of the organization and the learning management, right? But Rima, I'll go a little deeper here. Having said that, in your organization, correct me if I'm wrong, you're also working on deadline-based projects. People are always pressed for time, right? And it is your employees who are delivering, who are forefronting the customers. And it's the same employees there who also have to take up the learning and development courses, right? If you are, whatever you are enabling for them. How do you ensure that they are meeting their deadlines and then also still abreasting themselves? Because it's easier said than done, right? They might just come back to you that what do I prioritize, right? Do I do the course or do I first deliver, right? And there could be other nuances which I'm not aware of. So if you could just throw some light on that how do you build that individualistic learning course which will make that pull for them naturally that yes, I should take up this course without hampering my work and still be ahead of the curve?
Right, that's a very interesting question. So very clearly, it is somewhere linked to how the organization is perceived. What is it that how do we want to position the organization, right? We have always been a very learning-focused organization. We have tried to integrate our learning interventions with different other engagement activities so that it kind of becomes a way of life. So I'll just mention about this anecdote, so which has been there for quite some time, that head of finance says that why should we train people? So much of cost is involved. And the head of the organization says, but what if we don't train and they stay back? Yeah. So which means redundancy is a much, much bigger enemy for us than a typical cost element involved in training. So if this is the philosophy, then every employee knows that the learning and development piece is kind of linked to his or her growth process in the organization. Yeah. So somewhere probably it's in a way a little selfless approach which so many corporates also follow, that we are training people, not necessarily every single person will stay back, but we are actually contributing a full-fledged professional who has the knowledge and acumen on things, and that person is going out to enrich corporate India and corporate world. So even if there are deadline-based projects and people are hard-pressed for time, we always ensure that the person days targets and the learning-based outcomes are kind of weaved within their work portfolios. So every manager is accountable for the learning of the team members. These are tracked through different matrices, what kind of training programs people have undergone, how much of it is typical your current role based, how much of it is to broaden your horizon. For example, a program called LYS, which is Lead Your Ship, was about kind of understanding the different managerial priorities that govern somebody. And we did it over a period of time, keeping in mind people's convenience, respected people's pace, and then we launched it. Right now, there is one program going on which is called STEM, STEM, which is about enhancing myself. How can I be a better brand ambassador of the organization, ensure best productivity within the team by imbibing all the core values of the organization. So when people know that these are all things that are both for their skill enhancement and also for their growth within the organization, the challenge becomes lesser. So that's how we deal with it.
Wonderful. It's great to hear that, how leaders like you are envisaging that whole path, right? Arushi, I come to you at this juncture. We just heard Reema, right? And she brought out two very important nuances, that the whole culture of the organization till the last mile has to be percolated, and then the whole story is being weaved. You at Coursera are enabling more than 2,700 clients globally, right? And how are you helping this particular industry or similar companies at your level in building interactive, individualistic, relevant courses or disseminating? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think very well summarized in terms of the various players and how they would look at learning, right from the ones who are on the finance side saying, do we need this or not, to the business saying, we need this for our business objectives, to the learners then actually wanting to do it for their own growth and to be able to contribute, right? So I think in that gamut, if I were to continue that, the way we look at this is, number one, understand what is the ultimate objective that the organization is looking to do. So in this situation, it is so important to have the cutting edge of learning to be able to serve the clients that are being worked with. So that becomes of utmost importance for us to understand what the objective is. So that's really the first thing that we do, which is to understand what is the organizational objective. The second thing that we then do is what is the learner objective and what will make them feel excited with the prospect of learning. Often it can be a growth prospect, or it can just be the way the learning is delivered. So we take these two things, and the way we've structured this is, one is we have created role-based learning paths through academies and skill sets. And the second thing that we have done is we've brought an innovation and an individualization to learning through various products. And you gave the example of 10 November and ChatGPT. We've actually integrated that into our system, where we have created Coursera Coach and we have created Course Builder, which helps learners create journeys, ask questions, and feel like the AI is serving to their individual requirements. So, we've received very, very positive feedback and very excited to be able to walk along this journey.
That's interesting. November wasn't too very far off, and you having incorporated that.
So we announced it in April, and we are so excited to have been able to achieve what we had set out to do in such a fast manner, and feedback is what keeps us going. So it's been quite fantastic.
But that was fast.
Yeah.
Excellent. Reema, I'd also want to kind of explore another avenue in your learning and development charter. You must also be dealing with a lot of remote employees, and you are also dealing with global employees and India employees, right? We were having this conversation some time back. Any particular challenges that you came across when you are, rolling out your L&D charter and with remote employees particularly, or it's okay? Like how is it?
No, I must agree. There is one big challenge while skilling remote employees, and that challenge is of time zone.
Yeah.
So whenever we kind of think of anything, so I'll tell you, almost every alternate day in our organization, we have a learning web series which happens at 5 p.m. IST, and we have chosen the time in such a way that our colleagues from US, Philippines are also able to join, and that's kind of a common time. But yes, we have to constantly keep that in mind for any of our learning interventions.
Yeah.
And our morning, somebody's night, and vice versa. The thing is, our learning patterns also vary, right?
Yeah.
There are some people who are morning persons, they grasp things much easily in the morning, and there are some people who can kind of, go on and on during night time. They can they read and do lots of things. Even for my PhD, I remember I would finish all my, office work, household work, put my 2-year daughter to sleep, and then I would start doing my studies, and 12 to 2 a.m. would be my study time. So basically the learning patterns, pace, convenience, all of it differ. So when it's a remote employee and that access is less to that person's entire calendar, that does pose to be a bit of a challenge. But I'll also tell you how we have kind of, tackled that particular problem. So one is we have done a whole lot of socialization around the L&D programs that we do. And we have told people that there's a huge variety and diversity in the programs that we have. Be it the behavioral ones, the technical ones, the functional ones, the industry trend related ones, particular interventions around leadership development. So there's a plethora of things on the menu, so to say, and depending on the kind of time that you have, you can always think of investing in a particular thing, in a particular area. So our learning management system, recently we did a change to the UI UX part of it, because it's important that what we offer has that appealing feel to the learners, and there are lots of courses there. It runs into thousands, and we popularize and socialize those and tell people that whatever your time zone, wherever you are, even if you're at a client site, if you get 30 minutes somewhere, if you're able to take that time out of your busy schedule and go through this, you will feel good. Because going back to your first point, the nature of industry that we are, which is technology, we cut across multiple industry verticals. Absolutely. So if we have to advise, let's say, a banking sector, a bank, as to how they can digitally transform their processes, of course we have to be constantly on the go learning things ourselves. So we do that. Another thing that we have done to tackle this problem is, instead of a very traditional training approach, we launched something called Datamatics Mentorship Program, DMP. And we had some of our senior leaders paired with mentees in the organization, typically the key talent that we have. And we have deliberately kept someone remote in the team. So we wanted to check how this works. And I must say, there are always these initial hiccups about, this taking long to taking time to fix up the first couple of meetings. But after that, honestly, it has been fairly smooth, because probably that mentorship angle, that Guru Shishya angle, which has been a tradition from the past, somewhere it appeals to people, and they tend to think of it not as a push from the training department, but as a pull from within, that if there's a senior leader who's willing to invest his time on me and I can benefit from that, may not be extremely tangible benefit immediately, but in the long run it's hugely beneficial. So that also has helped us quite a lot.
Rima, you brought in an important thing that I think for we as humans, anywhere, how big or small an organization is, because we are dealing with people, I think a human element always works, one strand better than just, saying that, okay, there are the courses, please take it, right? The mentorship aspect. Arushi, this is very insightful that Rima just mentioned, right? But you must be, rolling out so many other frameworks that might have worked, maybe something similar or even better. Anything that you can elucidate, especially for this kind of industry that we are talking of?
Absolutely. And such an important point around different time zones, but still giving a similar experience to people, right? So in doing that, one of the philosophies that we have adopted is, we've said, how can we bring platform and the benefits of being a platform to ultimate learners? So the way we look at this is, one, consistent quality. So for example, let's say if there's a senior leader who can only mentor 1 or 2 people, but there are 20, 30, 50, 100 people who are looking to be mentored by this individual. How do we scale this? And we have introduced something that we call as private authoring, where this leader can create material that can be consumed on demand for other individuals who don't have that access of a one-to-one mentorship. So just taking this analogy forward, where time is provided by specific leaders and then being able to actually provide that learning. So that's one sort of framework that's been adopted, and that goes quite well. The second thing that we have found to be important in such a situation, which is how do we have a framework of learning, is knowing that not everyone's starting point is going to be the same. Right. As an employee, you will be never starting at point 0, you will be starting at X, Y, and whatever that X, Y is should be baked in to the journey of learning that you're taking. So in fact, we have productized this through a product called Level Sets, which says, take a small 20 questions MCQ so that the AI understands what is the level of learning that you are at for a particular skill. Also understand where do you want to get to, and then be able to go from there. So something as simple as, let's say if you want to even look at analytics, are you at a level where you're good at Excel? Are you at a level where you're actually good at Tableau? Or are you at a level where you can even take it further ahead with various concepts? You don't have to learn from point zero. So these are a few of the things that we have done to cater to the fact that every human and every individual is different, and not sort of have a cookie cutter approach.
Now that's great, because I think many a times we have seen that inertia to take a learning or a skill development course is because it's a blanket approach, yes. Right? And then people say that, it's just a 30 minutes, I put on the headphones and I just, I'm not really vested into it. Reema, I come to you, and we're coming to the last leg of our conversation. We pressed for time. You did mention an important thing, and I just parked it for the last. You mentioned the CFO, asking questions, right? We do realize that yes, L&D is very important for not just survival but thriving of the organization. But even post that realization, there at times a question is being posed to many leaders as to what will be the ROI, how will it translate, how will it reflect in the productivity or any other matrices. You did refer to certain matrices also that you might have incorporated, right? What are your thoughts, and how do you mitigate or answer these questions that are being thrown at you?
Right. So I will talk a little bit about our company, which has been there for almost 50 years now and has seen this entire journey of IT, ITES, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, all the new age tech trends, etc. And when we started our products journey in a very, very aggressive and full-fledged way some years back, it meant that within the ambit of a stable organization, we are kind of bringing in a startup culture, because products culture is a startup culture. So we have had these different kinds of scenarios in the same organization. So very clearly, the return on investment is something which gets talked about quite a lot, but it's not always easy to show it in dollar terms.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also a huge impact on the culture of the organization, which in turn, goes ahead to create a lot of business impact. But even if I take the first part, which is the dollar value, so if I look at our very significant wing, which is digital operations, which is essentially our BPO IT enabled services piece, the productivity measures are all set. So all the banking, financial services companies, which are our clients, so with them we have this thorough chain of matrices which are monitored regularly. Another business which is about omni-channel contact centers, and we provide digital experience to clients. So there is such an important element of proctors who are actually, proctoring the exams and all those things that are happening in that particular business. And empathy is kind of foundation stone. So when we train people, when we take them through that journey of how to have more of empathy towards the customers that you work with. So at that point in time, I cannot show any ROI. But over a period of time, when we have repeat business, when the business grows, it's very easy for us to show that connection, that when we have a more capable workforce, a more efficient and productive workforce, automatically the business grows.
Yeah.
Let me take another piece, which is the technology part, the digital technologies and transformation projects and everything. So this aspect, this term of billability is very much paramount in IT industry. So the count of billable resources, and how that changes with time, how with training people are able to upgrade and upskill themselves to such an extent that the difference is visible to everybody.
Yeah.
That this person has gone through a program, and when he or she speaks or adds value to the customer, it becomes very tangible. So I'll tell you about an initiative that we did with NASSCOM. Obviously in IT, that's an association we would have. So IT and MEITY, the ministry, they had launched this platform, Future Skills Prime. We are associated with them. So almost more than 50% of our workforce within a span of 1 year have now registered on that platform, taking up those courses. And I was just checking a couple of days back, the top 5 courses that people have taken: AI, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and of course there are many more. And there are those business focused skills which are around design thinking and all, which kind of help you to think in a different direction. So we manage and measure those as well as to what is the adoption of these initiatives within the organization, the different kinds of analytical cuts on the training that people are taking in terms of functional, behavioral, etc. Internal and external trainers, what does that ratio look like? Because we of course train people with the intention that at some point in time they will become learning ambassadors and also train and inspire so many others. We track those as well. So basically in every business area, we would keep a track of how the business is growing, pre-training, post-training. In some cases it's very easy. We can see the result within a 6-month span. In some cases probably it becomes visible after a year, but the link can be established.
Great. And Rima, you brought to the forum one important aspect, because when we think of software consulting or IT consulting, we think of technology only. But I think one important thing which is very paramount for you is the soft skill bit as well, because you are consulting people, right? Absolutely. So I think it's not just technology. You have to be, the same person has to be technologically sound as well as equipped to handle, customers and for fronting that. Arushi, ROI question Rima has well answered, but how do you put that into your courses such that it is visible to the person who is taking it and also the organizations who are enabling it? Because it has to be both, right? Both have to be as vested, they both as a leader and also the employee. Thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And like Rima mentioned, the dollar implication and the outcome implication, both are important things which learning leaders are trying to solve. So our attempt is to be a partner on that journey. And if we were to take the example of services in general, IT services, tech services, consulting, the way we look at it is the following, where we say, on the one hand, there is new skills which nobody has, which organizations are able to provide to their customers. And for that, they need to train their employees. So over there is no question of ROI because these skills did not exist. You can either build or buy. Buy is much more expensive and it's not, something which will make progress from internal workforce. So, that is the first. The second is being able to upskill that individual to do different roles. And the point around billing is so important, because here is where you're able to make sure that both this individual gets satisfaction in their career as well as the outcomes of the organizations are there. And then, I can talk about so many other things, which is internal fulfillment, which is pyramid, and all of these things which IT organizations have really, and we have had the chance to understand these. So how do we contribute to what are the metrics that the organization looks at from an ROI perspective, and then tailor learning accordingly? So, that's really the approach that we take of upskilling, reskilling and literacy, and then tie it back to these objectives, which ultimately helps learning leaders show the outcomes well.
Great, Arushi. And this is very interesting that you brought up, is that, new versus upskilling, right? And that will be that will be a huge pull factor, right? People will see merit in that, how I can progress. And it aligns to what Rima mentioned in the very beginning, that how their career, whether or not they stay with the organization, is being shaped up, right? Thank you, ladies. We are just running out of time, and we could have continued this, but thank you for this very, very insightful conversation, Rima. Thanks for bringing it out, the nuances of your very, very technologically driven industry, and Thank you for enabling all others, right? And what really sticks with me in this conversation is that mentorship aspect that you brought, that is very critical even for a huge organization, and how you are really, driving learning through different time zones, through different, geographical locations and all. It's very, very interesting, and I'm sure it will be very, very helpful for all our listeners there. Thank you, Arushi, as always, for bringing up these new initiatives that Coursera has been rolling out, and it seems that you have the answer for everything, right? But that's great. Thank you both for being here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.